You're listening to the Wealth Mindset Show, where Hixon Zuercher Capital Management's team of finance professionals, portfolio managers, and a life coach come together to tackle complex topics in finance and retirement planning so you don't have to. From investment strategies and wealth management to tax planning, retirement income, and aligning your money with your values and purpose, the Wealth Mindset Show offers the tools to thrive.
All right. Hey. Welcome to the Wealth Mindset Show, where our Hixon Zuercher team will have conversations on managing wealth, navigating retirement, and making smart decisions for a secure, meaningful future. I'm Alston Wilson, Director of Investments at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management.
And I'm Josh Robb, Director of Wealth Management at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. And today we're joined by Jordan Shaw.
The Jordan Shaw.
Another financial advisor here at our firm. And we are talking about financial spring cleaning. We're in that mode, right? You're getting out of the winter season.
That's right.
You're getting outside. You may be doing some work in and out of the house. So we want to talk how you can do that with your investments and your finances.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're going to take time now to reset our minds and get ready to hopefully save thousands and put the year ahead into a good state of mind. So item number one, let's talk about it. Regular expenses. Let's just take a review, take a step back, look at what we're spending on a regular basis. This is a really good opportunity at the beginning of a year, and as we're looking into the spring here, to look at maybe cutting down or eliminating expenses you could do without. So the question that I have is, how many subscriptions do you guys have?
Geez. I don't even know if I have the number answer.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And some of them, you got like your streaming services, and we have a couple of those. But then there's like subscriptions of stuff where, it's just, we do some like Amazon where you automatically get delivered toilet paper and, the essential stuff you're going to need. So there's some of those that, they're subscriptions because they reoccur without me doing anything.
So how do you keep track of them?
I have a budgeting app. I do have a budgeting app. So, I do track expenses and especially reoccurring ones. So I do periodically look at those. And there are some where I question them, but others think they're essential. So
of course,
we're in a debate on those.
Jordan, subscriptions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, so I do every month, I look at every charge that comes out. So I do keep tabs on it. One of the biggest reasons I do that is to see, what am I paying for that I do not actually need?
Yep.
Yeah.
So sometimes my wife and I can disagree. Like I think most recently the one was the Ring app has a subscription that you can pay for the videos and things. And I was like, I don't think we need that. And she said, I like it. So it's like sometimes you don't really agree.
The first time someone steals something off your porch and you can't.
Then I'll wish I had it. Yeah.
His neighborhood is a little sketchy, especially those people
right across the street. Yeah.
They're a little rabby. That's me, by the way.
Yeah. Got to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, got to keep an eye. We're the same way as Josh. It's kind of like I take a look at everything and same as you, like making sure I know what's being spent and like, my iCloud is $10 a month or whatever. And Josh does free cloud services only.
Well, my Android phone has yet to use up all its free stuff, whereas Steph also has iCloud. But a friend of mine was telling me they got a server and cloud at their home. When they plug in at night to charge, it automatically downloads all the pictures to a shared drive.
That's what you need
for all their phones. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
And so I thought, if you're going to pay for a subscription service for space, have it where you can all share, because half the time I want Steph's pictures, not mine, because she takes better pictures. So if we have a shared drive that's on the cloud, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so I'm thinking about going that route, and we would all share one space.
Yeah, we've got the typical streaming services and stuff as well. But one thing that I did just try, and this is not promoted or an advertisement in any way, but I found this app. Of course, I fell for an ad for an app because they're all over the place.
We subscribe to it.
And I'm on a free trial, by the way.
For now.
But the app is called Monarch, and it is a
butterfly identifier. Yeah.
Yeah,
I use that one too. Yeah.
It's like a financial bring everything in.
Okay.
It does. It looks at all of your accounts. You can link them so that it sees your transactions, of course, and categorizes them and shows where your money's going. It has a whole section on recurring expenses.
Okay.
So if it sees things pop up more than a time or two, it's like, hey, is this recurring?
Yep.
How much should it be?
Now, does it think Chick-fil-A is reoccurring?
If you go there enough, it would. You get the same order every week.
Spend the same amount.
It's got, and so that's really cool. And it's got you can link your investments as well and show that. So I just tried a free trial.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's $100 a year.
Okay.
at full price, but they're currently running a special for $50.
Okay.
So if I like it after 7 days, I can keep it for $50, and then it'll renew at $100.
The key would be, does it alert you that itself is a subscription recurring?
Right.
That's when you know they're being honest.
I know.
They tell you that.
And that brings up a point. The annual subscriptions, I probably have more of those than the monthly. So those ones will sneak up. I once paid for an annual subscription to a trail app, so I could go anywhere in the world and like find a trail near me. And you know how many times I used it?
Once.
One time. When I was still on the free trial too. Yeah. So I paid for nothing.
When
there's not a lot of trails around.
And then half the time it renews and you're like, oh, I got to remind myself next year. And you continue because you forget a year later, I was going to cancel that.
See, I've with some of those things and with free trials, because free trials are 7 days or 30 days, whatever. I always create a reminder on my phone.
I do that too.
And Apple's new updates, sorry, Josh, you don't know what I'm talking about, but Apple's new updates will put your reminders in your calendar app.
Yep.
Oh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yours already did.
Jeez, yeah. Where else does it go?
I know. So anyway, those are some ways to look at maybe some subscriptions you've got. Eating out is another thing to revisit. It's a huge budget buster for people. I mean, obviously, inflation has been high the last handful of years, and food costs have risen, and restaurant costs have risen across the board. So this is just a great time of year to say, hey, let's look back, and you can probably look back at all of 2024 at this time and the beginning of 2025 and say, hey, on a monthly basis, how much am I spending on eating out? Is it reasonable? Because maybe you're doing fine. Is it unreasonable? Yeah. Because your body would probably thank you, and your wallet would thank you, but it's a trade-off there.
But I get cash back on dining, so
that's really...
So can you afford not to?
I know.
You're getting paid to eat.
Seriously.
You're getting paid to eat.
Yeah, come on.
Here's another one. Gym memberships.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone have a gym membership? Jordan does.
Jordan does,
You use it?
I do. We do, but this is only like month 2 of having it, so check back a year from now.
Yeah, Jordan's going to be swole and broke. No.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Trade off.
But this is a great time of year. Maybe everyone has a family or a Planet Fitness, I feel like, membership for $9.99 a month.
And they forget about it.
And no one uses it. I mean, not no one, but I think the statistics are like 25% of people who haven't used it or something like that. So that's super interesting thing there. But yeah, another thing to look at as you're entering a new year is negotiations on things. Yeah. So internet and cell phone are the two that come to mind. You actually have a lot more power as a consumer than you think. These companies will just routinely jack up your price and hope that you never say anything.
Yep.
Often, if you do call and say something, they'll give you a bit of a break.
Yes.
I just recently did this. We have Spectrum, not a plug for them, but here it's one of the bigger ones in the area here for our phone and our internet.
Yep.
And I was able to call and renegotiate. You kind of have to like threaten to leave.
Yeah.
And say you're looking at other things, and then they're like, whoa, let's see what we can do here. But they usually will work with you because you're worth more at a 25% discount than a new customer at all.
Yeah.
So call your cell phone provider, call your internet provider. Maybe there's a deal that you can take advantage of there as we enter the new year. The next thing we'll talk about is financial goals.
Yes.
This is a great time to be revisiting those goals you set in the past, and are they still applicable, or setting new goals you want to hit by the end of the year or by summer. So Josh, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple reasons. One, you mentioned cash back. So like credit cards, a lot of times they're going to send you an annual summary at the end of the year. And so that's a good time to start this process of looking back and checking your financials to say, how did I do on my spending? How did I do on my savings? I can look at this kind of year in review type of thing and set or reset those goals. So if my goal was to increase my emergency fund, what did I start? How did I end? Did I actually accomplish that? And then where do I want to go from here? Is that at a good spot, or do I want to keep going and saving? So short-term goals, those are the ones that you're going to try to kind of hit in this 12-month period and say, okay, what do I need to do to get there? And then your midterm goals, that is probably more paying down some debt, things you're not going to get this year, but in the next maybe 3 to 5 years, you're going to hit. Those are the ones where you're kind of evaluating what's changed. Maybe some of that debt you could refinance if interest rates move, those type of things to make it easier. And then your long-term goals, which are retirement, that's the one you mess with the least.
Oh, probably. Especially,
but it's good to check
especially when you're younger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for instance, let's say you're saving in your company's 401k or whatever the retirement plan is, getting the match. Did they change anything in the plan? If the answer is no, you probably also don't need to do anything unless you want to increase your savings, obviously. But if you set your goals and you're on track, it's just a review. Just a quick look to say, am I am I on track? Those short and midterm, you're going to be adjusting more often. Long term, just am I heading in the right direction?
Absolutely. Jordan, any thoughts on goal setting?
Yeah, I like the whole concept of it being spring cleaning here, because if you look at this every month, it can almost be discouraging. You have that month
progress,
where, if you have a month where all those annual subscriptions come due, it's like, wow, I didn't hit any of my goals because I'm paying $500 more than I used to. But looking at it over the course of a year or 6 months or something like that is helpful, because you can see, okay, I did make progress. It was slow and steady, but I'm working. Or, I didn't, and here's why I need to make some changes.
Next up, rebalancing. So we are advocates of rebalancing your portfolios on a periodic basis, which I'm sure we're going to talk about the different philosophies you can do there. But one thing that to keep in mind is that markets move, right? Certain areas of the markets do really well. Certain area markets don't do so well. Certain asset classes do better than others. It's time to be on some sort of a plan for periodic rebalancing. And Josh, talk a little bit about the benefits of rebalancing.
Yeah, so when you look back historically, rebalancing on a set schedule, and again, this is not reacting to the market.
Correct.
It's on a schedule to say it's time to do it again.
Yep.
Reacting on the market is more emotionally based decision making. This is saying, okay, it's
quarterly, annually,
twice a year, once a year, whatever you choose. It's time to get back to where I need to be. And so the reason why that's beneficial is if things are up and you're selling them to get the things that are down, you're buying when they're up. I mean, it's what you want to do, and you're doing it on a schedule instead of emotional reaction.
Yep.
The thing I want to point out, you mentioned there's really two reasons why you rebalance. One is adjustments based on what's going on around you.
Yep.
Again, not emotionally reacting, but just finding opportunities. And then the second one is cash needs.
Yep.
So the other reason why you want to rebalance periodically is to make sure you have the right amount of cash in your accounts. Sometimes you may have too much and you need to rebalance and put it to work. Other times, if you're especially in retirement, I need cash. I have withdrawals coming out, so I'm going to rebalance to generate what I need. So those are really the two reasons you want to rebalance. And kind of talking about this spring cleaning, the main one we're focusing on is that getting back in alignment, right? If you need cash, you're going to generate it, but you might as well get back in line while you do it.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is, okay, what's changed? How can I utilize my investments to take advantage of that? Again, I'm not running from something that I'm scared of. It's saying what's different than what it was last time. So if it's twice a year, last 6 months, for instance, tariffs have happened in the last 6 months. So if I'm reviewing my portfolio, if I'm doing this kind of spring cleaning, anything that I want to switch because of this new news that we have going around, just being strategic and planning through, not because I'm scared that something's going on. I'm just, let's take an opportunity.
Yep.
See where we're at.
Another thought on that is if you are systematically pulling money out or putting money in, you're kind of rebalancing yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're generating cash proportionately,
exactly,
or you are adding cash proportionately,
Correct.
you are going to stay more in line.
And another thought I had is that this is just a reminder. You mentioned maybe having too much cash. Well, maybe you had a bunch of dividend. Maybe you're not in the distribution phase. You're in the accumulation phase. So maybe you had a bunch of your investments that pay dividends. Most do, especially in mutual funds and stuff like that. This is an opportunity to go in and make sure, if you can, to turn on dividend reinvestment stuff. That makes things like cash buildup not really an issue. But Jordan, I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on frequency of rebalancing and what you like to see or how you see that working?
Yeah, well, so that's a good question, because the key there is there's no really, the best thing is you don't want to be doing it too much. Yeah. I would say doing it too much is going to be arguably more detrimental than maybe doing it every couple of years. I would say key at least once a year. I like quarterly. I like having someone in your corner that you can talk to, like an investment advisor, and say, okay, make a goal, make an idea of how many times are we going to be looking at these targets that we're trying to rebalance to. But I've come from working with passive investment managers. Obviously, we're here at Hixon Zuercher active investment managers. There's ways to do both well, but if you're overactive in the sense that you're getting in and you're making tweaks constantly, that is going to hurt your returns, and it's not really the point of investing for most people. So I think that's what you want to avoid.
Yeah. And I'll say, when it comes to retirement planning or just investing in general, this is also a good time to review how much you're saving, because you may have gotten a raise. There may be other cash flow changes to your budget where it's good to decide, do I take a portion of that new money and add it to my retirement savings. And so while you're looking at this rebalance, also look at your cash flow in and out of that account and say, do I need to adjust this? And if you're spending, is that spending number still the same, right? So during this rebalancing review stage, how's my cash flow in and out, whichever direction it's going? So if you're young and you're saving, let's say I was doing $100 a month and I got a raise at work, can I do $125 a month? What can I do to increase my savings? And then on the other end, if I'm retiring, is my cost of living going up where I need a little more money? Do I need to rebalance or readjust that?
Yep. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the complexities of managing your wealth? You're not alone. Hixon Zuercher Capital Management specializes in helping families and individuals navigate the challenges of managing their finances. Wealth management is all about combining thoughtful financial planning with active investment management to help you reach your goals. Our process is designed to guide you towards what truly matters, because we believe wealth isn't the destination. It's a vehicle for something much more meaningful in your life. Achieving your dreams requires careful planning, smart decision-making, and access to high-quality investments. And that's where we come in. We understand that complex financial situations call for deep expertise in investing, tax strategies, and retirement planning, but our approach goes beyond that. We integrate your financial goals with your core values, helping you visualize the possibilities your wealth can create for a secure future. Our mission is to build, protect, and grow your wealth while keeping your vision at the forefront of our strategies. If you're ready to take the next step in your wealth management journey, visit hzcapital.com/start to see if we'd fit your needs and to schedule your intro call. Again, that's hzcapital.com/start. Now let's get back to today's episode. All right, next topic to discuss is taxes.
Yes.
Because guess what? It's springtime. You probably just filed or are about to file. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, you've already filed.
Or extended.
Or extended. But yeah, you filed your taxes. You know whether you got a refund or you owed and how much that was in relation to your income. You know a lot of information. I just love our American tax system where the government's like, you're like, how much do I owe in taxes? You're like, oh, you tell me. You let me know, and then we'll audit you if we feel like it's maybe not so good. But yeah, it's the American tax system. So Jordan, let's talk about things you may have learned during tax season, withholdings, deductions, things like that. Life changes, as we've both had over the last year, that impact your taxes. So talk a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so first I just want to say I wish every tax interaction and process that I've gone through was like filing with the city, because all I had to do, I just did this yesterday, gave them my 1040 and they went to the back room for about 5 minutes, came back out, and everything was withheld perfectly. It's just one little calculation they have to make.
Yep.
And obviously that's not the federal or state situation.
Their tax law is a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
exactly. So with that, obviously you have a lot more uniqueness, a lot more changes and things you have to pay attention to, especially when you're having kids or changing jobs or changing states. Last year was a crazy year for us, and it's okay if not everything is perfect. You can't really predict everything. We had a kid at the very end of the year, and there was no
from a tax perspective.
Good move from a tax perspective, bad move from a tax planning perspective, because it was really hard to make sure that the withholdings were perfect. But it's really being able to identify as much as you can of what will happen throughout your year, and working with a tax professional or a tax planner to help you kind of figure out what that looks like for you to make sure you're optimizing that. You don't want a huge refund. You don't want a huge payment that you owe. In most cases, that's what we see, which is unfortunate.
I think we talk about that withholding, and that's the key. Is for if you're an employed, you get a W-2 at the end of the year, and you get to elect how much you want withheld from your payroll every pay period. And that's something you can adjust at any time throughout the year. And what you need to know is, I want to withhold enough to cover my tax obligation, but I don't really want to over withhold, because although I get money at the end, that was my money anyways. They didn't give me extra money. That was my money. And so we usually try to say, make it as small as possible, and, just don't pay any penalties, but you want to pay what you owe and do it along the way to avoid any of that. So that's the key when you talk about, when we reevaluating, the main thing you're going to tweak is your withholding.
Yeah. Josh, talk a little bit about the tax advantaged account situation, planning for limits and stuff like that in the new year.
Yeah, there's different time frames on what you can and can't do. So we'll start with your employer plan. So 401ks, 403bs, you have through the calendar year to contribute into that plan, and it comes from your payroll deduction. So you have to make changes to your payroll deduction in order to increase or decrease that. On 12/31, you're done. Now, if you have retirement accounts outside of your employer, so a Roth IRA or traditional IRA, those type of accounts, you actually have until you file your taxes in the next year to make contributions. So if you get to February and you haven't filed yet, and you're like, you know what? I wish I would have added some more money to my retirement. You still can, which is nice. You have that ability up until you file your taxes. So there's 2 different timeframes there. But any money you put into something that's called tax deferred, it means you're paying taxes later, you're deferring taxes. You usually get a deduction. Usually, there are some income limitations, but usually get a deduction in that year. So you want to make sure your tax form shows that to get credit for that deduction.
I also mentioned too, like with some of those tax advantage accounts, the limits of what you can put in to, fund that pre-tax growth in those accounts, it does change
every year almost. Yeah.
And a lot of times people aren't notified of that. So paying attention to that, if you're able to save as much as possible in those accounts, and you haven't looked at it in a couple years, you might be putting in below what you actually could and missing out on a couple $1,000s of more contributions.
And then if you own a business, this gets a little more complicated because there's a lot of deductions and expenses you can write off and all that. But make sure that you're just thinking through those costs and what you can do, because maybe at the end of the year, it'd be better for you to buy some new equipment than owe tax, right? You'd rather just spend it on the business to reduce your income and have something to help your business than in January 1st, owe that to the government. Yeah. So, end of the year is a lot of times when you do tax planning as a business owner, not in March, April, when you're filing your taxes, because you want to know how much am I probably going to owe? Can I reduce that by doing something that would be beneficial for the business?
Right. I actually heard this funny story of an old farmer who was like, how do you prevent paying these huge tax bills at the end of every year? Like, you have a bunch of tax due. He's like, well, clearly you've never gone shopping for a pickup truck at the end of the year for your farm.
Right.
That's a good way to deduct a lot. That's taxes. Pro tip, you should have some way of organizing your tax documents. Now, these come in usually at the beginning of the year for the prior calendar year. So you've probably already got them for 2024. But there are 2 ways that I would recommend doing this. Number 1, if you're old-fashioned, keep that paper document in a folder, in a firebox or something, labeled properly. Mm-hmm. Number 2, if you're not so old school, because this is the way I do it, is Jenna and I have a shared iCloud folder. Apple.
No, that's nice. Seems nice.
And so we, as we get those documents in, scan it, and shred it. Scan it and shred it. And then if it's there if you need it, and you never have to worry about it. And then after so many years, you can go delete those old folders because you're not going to need them again.
7, I think. It's 7 years is
7 years.
The amount of time you have to keep them. But talking about that, some of those things you're talking about. So tax forms from accounts. So investment accounts where you make contributions or have capital gains. But the other ones that you have to keep in mind, depending on if you itemize, is property tax. Like you're going to pay your property tax at some point this year, maybe twice a year, depending on how you pay your schedule. That's a tax deduction if you itemize. Like there's certain things that they're not just tax forms, but those contributions to charitable organizations, they're going to send you a receipt probably when you make the contribution. They don't always do it at the end of the year.
Unless it's recurring.
Yeah. So you got to kind of hold on to those, scan it in or put it somewhere, because at the end of the year, instead of trying to call them all and say, hey, can I have another? You collect it as it goes.
Absolutely. All right. Last topic we're going to talk about is organizing your financial life in the new year. So Jordan, what are some thoughts and just general topics that people just need to keep in the front of their mind as they're just getting set up for a new year planning?
Well, I would say you don't have to do it all at once. That's kind of key there. Like I think of actual spring cleaning, like yard work. I was out a couple weekends ago and I did a little bit of progress, but I wasn't able to get the whole couple hours worth of stuff done to make my yard look the way I wanted to. And thank you. Yeah, see, you noticed that there was about a 5% increase in the...
It was marginally better.
Yeah, marginally. But that really is the key. If you can just start making 1 or 2 of these changes, start going through just the last few weeks of what are you spending money on? Are there some things that you can organize better with your tax documents? Like little things, looking at your withholdings, like making a plan doesn't mean you have to do the whole plan in one sitting. But just keeping that front of mind.
And prioritize what are the most important things. What are the things that either are most valuable to you or will have the biggest impact. So, one of the ones like we talked at the very beginning is if I can save some money, that's probably valuable to me. So maybe you start there and see what you can do and then work down your list. But estate plan, periodically review, maybe once a year, just a quick scan through. Anything change that I need to update. The other one is credit cards. Check your credit report, make sure there's nothing wrong with those. If you're signed up for any kind of like alerts or software, like there's like LifeLock or those type of things where they may alert you ahead of time, but it's good to just do a quick review. You can get a free report on your credit from the 3 different bureaus. So once a year, just do a scrub through of that. That's a nice spring cleaning thing. Passwords, that's their most likely vulnerable spot. Review that. Am I reusing them? Do I have one favorite word I use everywhere?
Please Password 1, 2, 3 on everything.
Enable 2-factor authentication.
That's
everything you can. Yes. Because even if your password's the same, someone couldn't probably get in that easily.
No. Yeah. It adds one more layer that they'd have to also have access to the phone or wherever you're receiving that.
Absolutely.
Probably don't put it to your email if you use the same password on your email as whatever it is.
That's
but that's a whole other thing.
But I think, Jordan, you hit the nail on the head here. I think that it's little incremental things that can really add up over time. What's the thought, the philosophy? If you can get 1% better every single day instead of getting, big chunks at a time, you're actually going to end up being much better over time. So just take the long path here and make little chip away at those little things because they're going to add up over time. But yeah, that's what we have for spring cleaning your finances. Any closing thoughts?
By the end of the summer, my yard is going to look so good.
Before the fall, before leaves
fall?
Right
before the leaves fall.
That's good.
It's going to be clean.
Josh, anything?
The key is just don't overwhelm yourself and don't beat yourself up if you don't get everything done, right? Yeah. But set some goals and just work towards them, like you said.
Absolutely. Well, if you found value in our conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the Wealth Mindset Show on whatever platform you're listening to so you don't miss an episode. Also, feel free to visit us at thewealthmindsetshow.com for more resources, transcripts, links, all kinds of stuff we talk about on the show. If you're ready to invest with us, head over to hzcapital.com. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we can be a good fit. And, of course, invite you to follow us on social media so that you can keep up with what's going on in our lives and with the podcast. We're on pretty much all the platforms, so stay connected. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next episode.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us at the Wealth Mindset Show, where we tackle the complexities of finance and life planning to help you align your wealth with your values. We hope today's conversation provided value and clarity as you navigate your financial journey. Your hosts work for Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, and all opinions expressed by them or any podcast guest are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. There is no guarantee that statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment, and any investor attempting to mimic index performance would incur fees and expenses that could reduce returns. Securities investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal, and there is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.